This episode is sponsored by Proverbs 31 Business Systems. Are you tired of feeling like your business depends on you for everything? If your business slows down every time you step away, you may be the bottleneck. At Proverbs 31 Business Systems, we help faith-driven, service-based entrepreneurs build systems, workflows, and automation that allow their businesses to run without burnout. Take the 5-minute bottleneck test to discover what's really slowing your business down and what to fix first. Simply scan the QR code shown on the screen or visit proverbs31businesssystems.com. Now let's get into today's episode.
Virtuous woman, she's worth more than gold. She doesn't.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming the Proverbs 31 Woman podcast. My name is Chama Kende, also your host, also known as Special Agent Chi, and on today's show we have Kay Crystal Griffith. She is a founder of the Medical Mom Warriors and creator of Medical Stability Blueprint, helping caregivers build stability inside medical chaos so that they're not carrying it alone. She equips medical moms and chronically ill individuals with trauma-informed tools, advocacy strategies, and clear action plans. A three-time bestseller author, her work is rooted in lived experience and focus on practical impact. Welcome to the show, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes. So glad to have you on the show. So, Crystal, in one sentence, what would you describe what you do?
Basically, I help medical moms and chronically ill adults, one of which I am both, turn medical chaos into real stability, really through practical systems, fierce hope rooted in Jesus, advocacy, and trauma-informed support. So they don't have to carry everything alone because we tend to do that as medical moms and as chronically ill adults.
So for those who are meeting you for the first time, can you share who you are, like the work that you do for your Medical Mom Warriors?
Sure. As the creator and founder of Medical Mom Warriors, it was started because I have a daughter who has 28 diagnoses, and I myself am a traumatic brain injury survivor as well as cancer survivor 4 times over. And as that medical advocate in both those scenarios, speaker, author, business strategist, I realized that the chaos that's experienced in the medical setting really has no stability. It comes thrust upon you. You are swirling in chaos, new vocabulary, and you have no idea what to do and when to do it. So because of that, I have realized that we really need to have stability systems in place to help them inside ongoing medical chaos. And that background, it wasn't built in a classroom. It was totally built through these chronic issues, years of caregiving, and navigating the broken systems. We're finding out more and more every day through some of our leadership about the broken systems. Also through deployments, through medical trauma, and walking through situations I didn't know how to survive emotionally, physically, spiritually, or financially through. And then I realized women are trying to function through these. And how are they getting through them with no support, no understanding, no background, no vocabulary? They become case managers, advocates, schedulers, medication coordinators of things that they didn't even know existed, possibly even 48 hours ago. You know, they're researchers, they're transportation, they're the chauffeurs, they're emotional regulations. Really, we become all of these hats, all of what we call labels, right? In an instant when you're thrust into medical chaos. So how can we help them not be exhausted all the time and not be silently drowning? And that's what the goal of Medical Mom Warriors is to help them build the systems, support, community, and stability so hope stops feeling so fragile and becomes pretty fierce for them.
I mean, that's very relatable because I'm a mom working and just with three kids. So that is very, 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 very relatable, especially dealing with I think also with should I say special needs or just different things that can
Mhm.
add to it because taking care of a kid is, can be challenging. And then in addition to having like I think you said like a diagnosis, I can't remember. You said your daughter had how many diagnoses you
She's
mentioned?
28.
You said
Hmm.
28? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So
Yeah.
and then sorry, go ahead.
No, a lot of people don't have any idea what anyone else is walking through. And even as a mom of three kids, I don't personally understand that. I have a kid and it's like I have 10 kids at times,
Mhm.
but I don't truly understand what it's like to be a mom of three kids and trying to coordinate
Mhm.
and juggle all those moving parts and pieces. I can feel empathy. I can say, oh yeah, I've been there when those kids do not want to get out the door, right?
Yes.
But ultimately, no one has any clue what anybody else is walking through.
That is true. Till you've been there, just like giving birth, nobody's gonna tell you till you can explain it, but till you've, gone through like having birth for a kid, if you've not been through, you're not gonna understand the
And
pain.
everybody's is different
Yes.
anyways.
Yes.
I mean, you can have two, like for example, one of my kiddo's best friends, we've known them since she was probably 6, so both the girls were 6. They're about a month apart. And we didn't even know they had met each other before the moms even met. We met in a Bible study and became fast friends. And she's one of my besties. But these girls are both on the spectrum. Both have hearing loss. Both are super crazy smart and savants in some area. Her best friend is a potter as well as an artist. I mean, just super, super crazy creative. And my kid has her own savant giftings. And so when you look at these girls side by side and you're looking at them on paper, oh, they're quote unquote the same. Oh, they are so far from the same. It's not even funny. Like, even different maturity levels and different ways of viewing the world and understanding the world. And all of that comes because we're all unique human beings. So we're all going to encounter what looks like the same situation in completely different ways. And that's okay because that's how God designed us to be unique with our own unique giftings and capabilities. And because of that, we each have our own opportunity to walk through a similar experience in a completely different way.
That is so true. Yes, definitely. With the personalities, it's like you can't compare, like even though they may come from the same household, they are completely different. I know like we're six in my family and it's like you come from the same household, but it's always a different, like you said, God really, should I say, designs everybody uniquely because I feel like it's uniquely in your own gifting of what you have to do,
Hmm.
in this world. So
Absolutely.
so I'm guessing, so when did you like first sense this? Because are you a medical doctor? When did you first sense this to start doing this work, this calling?
No, not a medical doctor. I actually had just graduated from college in international relations. The goal was actually to go to the United Nations. We
Okay.
haven't made it there yet. That's okay. And so I got as far as the Model United Nations. But I got married 3 hours after I graduated college. And 4 months later, got into a car accident.
Oh.
And that just changed my life. A young lady forgot to defrost her windshield because she was going to be late for her sandwich job and turned right into me, T-boned me. 2 days later or so, I woke up with these headaches that I ended up enduring for 4 years until God healed me, which is another cool story in that. But these were, in hindsight, we knew there's a subdural hematoma, which is a brain bleed, basically. Saw it on the films. But 30 years ago, they just didn't know what to do with traumatic brain injuries. So they would literally pat me on the leg and tell me to go home and sleep it off. So I had to figure out really quickly how to function, how to get to doctor's appointments. Being newly married as well, what was this doing to our marriage? My whole personality changed. God and I had many conversations in all of this, going, what the heck, right? Because when things like this come out of the blue and they absolutely disrupt your life, it's like a Damascus Road experience, just like Saul to Paul encountered. where you are literally struck down in what you would think was the prime of your life when everything was going right. Mind you, Saul was not having some things go right. He just didn't realize it yet, right? But you just you're like, what is happening? What did I do? Who did this? Am I in the middle of some kind of sin I don't even realize? Like, is this an enemy attack? Like all the standard things, right? And there were times where I would wake up and I would have no idea what my name is. I'd be like, okay, I know I'm safe, but who am I? Where am I? What's going on? And then things in your marriage shift so quickly, dramatically, that, things are not safe in there anymore because the spouse doesn't know how to react to you and acts out of anger. And now you're dealing with that unsafety. So now you have unsafety in your body, unsafety in your situation. How are you supposed to heal in those moments? And so out of that, God and I, he got me through. Only God got me through, legitimately. And I think the biggest shift came when I stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, okay, Lord, how do we turn this into something that's going to help someone else? And out of that, I found this research study that was about an hour and a half away from where we were living on the Gulf Coast at the time. And I would drive there 3 times a week. To this day, I have no idea how I got there or how I got home. To this day, it is an angel was driving me because I do not remember. I couldn't drive like that. I couldn't focus. I couldn't think. I didn't have reaction time, but my spouse at the time was in the military, so he couldn't drive me. And they didn't have Ubers and Lyfts back then, right? And we didn't have any money for any of that. So I'd get in my car and I'd be like, Lord, get me where I need to go and please keep everybody safe. And I'd get there. I'd do this research study that they had, and come to find out, it was what they call the precursor to what we have now is what's called neurofeedback. So it's
Oh.
pretty cool that even in the middle of what I was experiencing, I was able to do some things that now help millions of people all over the world. And so I look back and I go, oh, okay. Even when I didn't realize it, I was becoming a warrior for medical people. And so it's exciting to see that journey in hindsight. It is so not exciting to live through it.
I can imagine going through that wilderness period is fun. And talk about, you said right after college, that was like life experience, like life-changing experiences. First of all, you said you got out of college and you got married?
3 hours later, yep, our
Yeah,
thought was,
right.
well, everybody's here. We'll just walk down and go get
Oh,
married.
right, like right after your graduation? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You
it's a
got
little crazy.
married and then another life-changing event with the accident. My
Yeah,
goodness.
no.
So those were like
And
two. And then just with marriage, that's like that first year. And then just doing with that, I can't even imagine the changes in the life, just being a wife in that new role and going through that's definitely, I can't even imagine. I'm glad, like you said, only God can take you through that situation. And he works all things for the good, like especially going through that wilderness has worked it out, for the good. So, you shared, part of your story of like what redemption looked like. So, what does redemption look like in your own life? I think like you said, God had redeemed you from every part of your story. So, what has redemption looked like in your own life?
it really has looked a lot less of erasing the pain because I think part of our stories when we walk through it are going to include pain. We live in a fallen world. Like there's really no way around it. And when we are not innately built to heal, I think we have healing within us. I think we absolutely are capable of healing within us because God's within us and He's the ultimate healer, right? But I think because we live in the world that we do, we don't know how to access it. We don't know how to activate it. And even if you have these incredible prayer warrior parents, and I am to my own kid, right? I've known how to raise her in faith, and I've known, and she has these activations and these healing capabilities. But yet, we also have our own opportunity to turn away. We have our own opportunity to walk in free will, and that's how God designed the whole system, right? Is to give us the opportunity to choose Him. And when we partner with Him, man, life looks so radically different. When we don't choose to walk in Him, we make life a lot harder on ourselves. My kiddo is choosing to make life a lot harder on herself at the moment. So, redemption doesn't look like it's pain not there, but it does look like Romans 8:28. God works all things for His good and glory for those who love Him. And there are parts of my story that I never would have chosen. Through my traumatic brain injury, not only did I get married and have this brain injury, but I had been accepted to my dream. My dream was to get my PhD, and I had been accepted to Boston University. And I was supposed to go. And when you wake up and you don't even know your name, there is no way you're going to a PhD program. And so I had to lay that down. That was as heartbreaking in those moments, honestly, as me being told I was never going to be able to have children either. Because so now I'm newly married. I've had to lose my dream and be told I can't have kids because I could stroke out. Like, what is happening here, Lord? And so those parts of my story, even with the chronic health issues and now watching my kid walk through what she walks through, like her poor Dexcom was going off a mile a minute last night. And you question a lot of things, but you're rooted in Christ and He sees her. He loves her more than I do. And He loves me more than anybody else on this planet does. And so it's those moments where fierce hope comes into play, where you are rooted on the rock and not the sand. And you remind yourself how faithful God has been. I just gave a talk about gratitude in the middle of chaos. And when we identify the receipts that we have, just like in the Bible, when they would find the rocks and then they build the rock altars in the rivers, right, as a reminder of what God had done,
Remembrance.
right? And I kind of wish that God had allowed them to keep some of the bones from the quail and some of the bread as those reminders, right? Because I think sometimes we forget. We're like, oh, life is so bad again. And when you don't have the receipts to remind yourself, and that's one of the things that He wanted people to do. He wanted that oral legacy to continue being passed down through those stories of sharing what God had done for them. And so that's what we have to do today. We have to be sharing those stories. We overcome by the word of our testimony.
That's
That's
right.
why I do these podcasts. I want people to know there is hope. Even in the worst chaos you can imagine, there is hope. There is another medical mom warrior out there, and she had started just recording praising the Lord with her very, very, very severely medically complex child. And I think she got to about day 127 or so. And that's the whole video, is just her recording praising the Lord. That's it. That's the whole video. And he passed away.
Mm.
And so many people did not understand why. Well, if she was doing the right thing, if you didn't have sin, all the way back to those questions that we talked about, right?
Right.
What did you do? And instead, look at, wow, look how much God prepared that family through worship to receive what was coming and to know how to prepare their hearts in such a way that when it happened, her healing journey was radically different than anybody else's because of it. And within just a few days, she was back to recording praising. And they're like, how can you do that? You must be devastated. She's like, oh, my
Wow.
heart hurts. But in that, I'm going to praise. And I think that's where the very places that could have crushed me have become the places, just like with her, that you can speak from life, you can speak from wisdom, you can speak from strategy, and you can speak from hope into other people. And that's the ultimate redemption. Is
Mm,
out of that we overcome by the word of our testimony, and those things begin to take place and become wisdom for other people in their lives.
definitely. And honestly, I think praise, like Thanksgiving, is because if you look at a strong concordance, it's like it's almost like it's a different, like people may see it as praise, but in the background, it's like almost like warfare sometimes, depending on the situation.
Mm,
It's almost like shooting
absolutely.
arrows. It's almost like just doing when you're giving Thanksgiving or like all of that stuff is going like, because I think in the Bible there was like a actually even good example. Didn't they say Judah praised ahead when they were walking around Jericho and it
Hmm.
fell down? So
Right.
sometimes we may not see in the, should I say, spiritual, what's happening, because I mean we have a disadvantage of not seeing that, you know. But in the physical, you just don't know. Like you said, it prepared her for being able to, you know, and people, and that's the thing is like, if you're not rooted in Christ, sometimes you may not understand certain things, especially you don't even know her relationship with God to
Right.
be able to, you don't know some of the dreams. Maybe God may have warned her ahead of time. We don't know that. So it's just your relationship, like when you're rooted in God, and he never said we wouldn't go through adversities. He didn't say that. But
Right.
if you're in him, through it. When Job was going through his adversity, he was in God. He was cursing and all of that, but guess what? He was still in God doing all that. So when you're going, it's not inevitable that all of that stuff is not, but it's just how do you handle that? Another thing I just also want to say, they said you couldn't have a kid, and
Right.
who
Yeah.
was report were you
Yep.
believing?
10 years of infertility. They couldn't explain it until I had this one test. And in that 10 years, we had two failed adoptions. And failed to us, but they chose to keep their kiddos, which is good for them, right? And then we offered to actually take babies for four ladies who were questioning what they wanted to do with their pregnancies. Three of them decided to keep.
Oh,
One decided to go through with what she was doing as a choice. And I pray for those kiddos, all of them. And then we were just moved to Colorado and we were at the place of, okay, let's fill out foster care stuff. And so we were filling that out, I literally had the applications kind of thing, and hoping that maybe foster to adopt would happen for us. And I knew I wanted to be a mom since the sixth grade. In fact, I wanted to be a grandma, but God said I had to be a mom to be a grandma. And I'm like, oh, whatever. And, you know, so I knew the promise was there. At that point, he had already healed me of those headaches after 4 years, very physically. So I knew without question God could heal. Like I had been part of that Holy Spirit movement activation. Like I know God can heal. And so I just didn't know why we couldn't have a kid. And so right before we moved to Colorado, we were teaching a class together with some other couples. And I had just gone through this test that actually showed both of my tubes completely impacted. There was absolutely no way, none, not even the liquid would go through it. It was one of the most horrendous tests I've ever had in my entire life. And so there was no physical way I was going to be able to have a kid. None. And so because of that, we shared that news with this class that we were teaching. And interestingly enough, the husbands in the class asked to pray over me. I'm like, sure, I'll take all the prayer we can get. Let's do it. So they prayed over me. The next week, I actually had an appointment with the first person who ever created the very first test tube baby in the United States. He was older than dirt. Like he's 73. Well, 73 doesn't feel so old now that I'm 53. But he was 73. Back then, he was older than dirt, right?
right, right.
And so we went in. I went to go talk to him. Older gentleman, I think tall, thin, wiry grandpa. And so he does all these tests and he looks at these test results that he has and he goes, okay. He goes, I want to do one more test. I'm like, oh, okay. And he shoots this air up my hoo-hoo. And then he walks out of the room and I'm like, what is happening? And all of a sudden I get this excruciating pain in my shoulder. I mean, I thought I was having a heart attack. It was bad. I couldn't even get off the thing to like call out for help. I was in like, it just took my breath away. Like 5 minutes later, he comes back in and I'm like, what did you do to me? And he goes, oh, did you feel that? I'm like, Yeah, yes, I did. He goes, oh, where? And I'm just like, still like, it takes my breath away, the pain. I'm like, here. He goes, oh, up there by your scapula. Oh, okay. You're fine. Go home and have babies. I said, what? And he goes, oh, yeah, if your tubes weren't open, it wouldn't have gotten trapped underneath your scapula. I'm like, what is happening? 6 months later, I was pregnant. And yeah, and that in itself is a whole nother story for another day.
My God.
But yeah, it was the craziest thing, and
We
yeah,
have
God.
to do a part two about this because your stories are like amazing. We may have to have a part two,
Oh
honestly.
yeah, bring it on. Oh yeah, that's a doozy of a story. Yep.
Oh my goodness. So you share about medical stability blueprint. How does it help families move from overwhelmed to like a clear plan?
Well, let's just talk about what stability is not. Stability is not easy, and it doesn't mean it takes the hardness away. You still got to walk through the fire. You still got to climb the mountain. You still got to get through the valley, because unfortunately, the medical chaos still exists. But for medically complex families, and life is always going to include appointments, diagnoses, medications, insurance battles, uncertainty, caregiving realities. And really, stability means the chaos, though, is no longer controlling every part of your nervous system because it does. You begin to snap, right? And you're just like, oh, if I could just take 2 seconds. But you really, as a caregiver, hardly ever get those 2 seconds, even in a bathroom, because you're still listening. Like last night, I was working on my website actually, and her Dexcom, which is a meter that tests her glucose levels, was steady going off. Well, she's also deaf, hard of hearing, so she's not hearing it. I'm hearing it, so I'm on hyper alert. I'm walking in there with my little Snickers thing, going, "Hey, do we need this? Like, what's happening?" And that is a new journey for us. She just got diagnosed in the last probably 12 weeks with reactive hypoglycemia. And that diagnosis came out of an ER visit that we went into for a blood clot in her leg. Like,
Oh,
you can't make this stuff up with me. And so when you look at stability, could I be scrambling in all of that? Absolutely. Could I be losing my mind? Absolutely. Could I be pulling out my hair? You see, I have little hair up here. Like, we don't want to pull any more hair out, right? But what you realize is how, back to that praise and worship conversation, right? How you walk through the chaos really determines your peace. It determines your focus. It determines your clarity. And if people looked at what my daughter and I walked through today, they would be like, how do you not think that that Dexcom thing going off is not like a major issue? Like she's going from 190 down to the 50s. That's a really bad range for people with glucose, by the way. It should be like somewhere between 70 and 120. And I'm like, okay, but me being out of control doesn't help her stay in control. It doesn't help us stay regulated in the situation. It doesn't help us think through the situation and call the proper authorities if we need to, or get her the help that she needs to. And it also doesn't help me, as the person helping to oversee the situation, keep her calm and ask the questions that I need to of the medical professionals. Did that happen overnight? Absolutely not. That took a long time to get to that place. But that's why I share what I do. So I can help other moms get to that place way faster than I did. And isn't that the whole point of what God imparts to us with our gifts, talents, and abilities? To help it easier for the person who comes after us? To be able to magnify, amplify, multiply, on their behalf so it can be an easier navigation for them. So most women are not failing because they're weak. They're really overloaded without structure, without support, without tools. And that's where Medical Mom Warriors comes in because I saw that as a person who had walked through it on multiple fronts. And I'm like, we can't keep living like this. And it's not just about caregiving, because we do have a lot of fantastic caregiving programs. This is more about the structure and tools to keep your peace in the middle of the chaos, which is a little different.
no. Well, this is, I mean, that's some good work. And I feel like you would bring, should I say, more better for someone who's lived through it and has walked through it. You would bring a much better value to, to the moms that are struggling. You're more understanding. You could say, like, if they're saying, "Hey, I'm going," you're like, "I understand." I feel like a person has walked through it is easier to help than a person who's just saying, like, "Hey," like maybe he has, gone like a degree to, if you've walked through it, it's a lot easier to help and impact other people. So,
Absolutely.
so I see you're a three-time best-selling author. How has writing helped you process your story and serve others?
That's such a great question. So, the three books that I've been part of are anthologies. I have another one actually coming out next week. I'm super excited
Okay.
to be in. And that's The Untold Story, about how we are walking through resilience in places. And then Seek the Heart, and then two different versions of Women of Purpose. One's about compassionate hearts, and one's about stories of women who changed the world. And all of those books have, interestingly, given me an opportunity to see my story in a new light that I hadn't considered before. And when I sit down and I'm asking the Lord, okay, what do you want to say to the women who are going to read these stories? What I thought was going to be one direction that we were going like becomes this whole other direction, right? And that's what's so cool about the Lord, because when we invite him into those conversations, what we get out is so unexpected that you are taken aback. You're in awe of what he creates through you and how it's going to impact other women and other people. Because I've had men read these books and like, wow, I had no idea, and this is powerful. And I took away this tool and this tool and this tool. And
Hmm.
I'm an educator. I taught for 30 years in the college system.
Oh, okay.
So I'm always about, let's talk about tools, let's talk about resources, and let's get you the support and the help that you need to be successful. I think God wants us successful, and that doesn't necessarily coincide with this financial success. I do think we are not intended to just struggle all the time. I think we do have storehouses of abundance available to us as His children. But I think writing has really helped me put language around things that I survived, but maybe I never really fully processed until I sat it down. And then there's really something powerful about that chaos that's lived, that is kind of scattered inside your mind, and you turn it into the story with meaning and wisdom and lessons and practical tools that people can take away and immediately implement. And that's that educator side of me. Like, I want you to be so successful right now. Here, I'm going to give you this tool. And if you'll go work on this tool right now, it's easy and simplified so it doesn't make for a burden in your life, but can relieve stress. Like, for example, just last night, crazy story. We know somebody who just lost their eyesight in the family, and crazy story in that. But they're very stressed out. They're like, what I was doing for a job, I can't actually do, so I have to pick up this other piece of my job, and I have to, really get that going. And I'm like, actually, it really would be better for you to go to this really cool 2 week school that teaches you how to be a blind person, because now you are. And you don't know what you don't know. And that could help you come back and do these things so much easier than what you're trying to do and figure out right now. And when it really came down to that conversation, it was about fear. How am I going to
Mm,
pay my bills? What purpose am I going to serve moving forward in the future? And so
mm,
once we could identify that, then I felt like the Lord said, I guarantee you there's money in that house that that person has. And I was like, hey, have you considered a HELOC loan? It would access your equity in the house. It would give you this breathing room. You're already overpaying on your mortgage. What if you just stopped overpaying on the mortgage and you just paid what was due? What would that look like? So, in having some of those conversations, a whole world opened up, and you could physically feel the relief come into the conversation, even by phone. I hadn't thought about those things.
mm,
Those could work. And you begin to hear a little hope come in through systems and tools and resources that they hadn't thought about before. And really, when we bring our books to the table, and God's so funny. He tells me when people are supposed to be writing books all the time. And so One of the very first times he ever did this was with, she ends up being my bestie. We've been friends for, how old is my kid? She's gonna be 21. So I was pregnant with my daughter when she was my boss, actually. She had taught me to teach college. We go to lunch one day and she unfolds her story about this incredible story about forgiveness and her family. And I looked at her and it was the first time God had ever used me to call out a book. And I said, "So when are you writing your book?" And she's, "Oh, no, no, I could never, never, no." And she wasn't quite a Christian at that point. I could see God was doing some things, but looking back, I could see he had perfectly positioned us as friends to call this forth. And now she has not only that book, but she also has a documentary around the book, and she has a
Wow.
movie coming out about it.
What?
Like, it's
Wow.
so cool.
Wow.
So, writing not only helps you process your story, but truly bring life
Yes.
and light to other people's lives.
Yes, yes. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. Honestly, your stories are just, I can sit down and just every one of your stories are just amazing. Like you need a documentary on your story for everything that you have.
Maybe one day.
So, this is the Becoming the Proverbs 31 Woman podcast, and I always ask all my guests, what's a quality of the Proverbs 31 woman you most identify with?
I think discernment is the biggest one. And right now, I think discernment matters so much more than the noise and the hustle and the appearances. There's so many voices pulling women in different directions, especially online. How often, we have our little phones and we're scrolling to either escape or to just get 5 minutes. Discernment helps us recognize what is actually life, what is life-giving, what is sustainable, what's truthful, and what's aligned with God instead of simply being urgent or loud. And especially with my people that we're always working with for chronically ill and medical mom warriors, so much of our chaos feels urgent medically and loud in this capacity of new vocabulary every time we get a new diagnosis, right? We have to process so much. So when we have discernment, we can take a step back, we can breathe because we can go, "Okay, Lord, how do you want me to proceed?" And so I've learned the hard way that not every opportunity is an assignment. I'm still learning that. Every single time he gives me a new vision. Like he just gave me another book last week, and I'm like,
Oh,
"Lord,
nice.
could we finish the first three, please?"
Nice.
I'm working on three books myself. And so, you know, oftentimes that discernment has to be, okay, you're giving me the vision. Is it for now? Or is it for in a little bit? Or is it for later? Like, when is it for? And I think, especially as a visionary, and other visionaries may have the same issue. I could be wrong, it might just be me, but when you're a visionary, you tend to think it's for immediately. And so you just jump in it.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
your ADHD kicks in, and you're like, if I don't go do it right now, it's going to be off. And then you have visual blindness to it, right? So you forget to come back to it. So, like, all these moving parts and pieces to getting an assignment. But when we take that step back and we can discern and we can ask the Lord, okay, I'm going to surrender it back to you. You tell me the when, where, how, why, and what, and we'll move forward. And when we can do that, man, things really shift for us
Hmm.
because then it's not about us being in charge of it. And then it goes back to the Lord will direct our steps,
That's
you know. And in Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding, but in
mhm.
all his ways acknowledge him,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
will direct your paths.
Yes. Yes, he definitely. So, what final encouragement would you give to the woman who's trying to, rebuild and, with joy while trying to walk through this hard season? What encouragement would you give that lady?
Do not wait. Do not wait for life to become perfect. It's never going to be, right? Before
Mhm.
allowing yourself to live again. Because
Mm.
as a medical mom, as a caregiver, as chronically ill, we lose, we think, a lot of our life in becoming chronically ill, in caregiving, in trying to just survive. And we have postponed our joy. We've had periods, long periods of uncertainty. And And perhaps we've been waiting for healing and stability and answers and rescue, you
Mm,
know. But the answer is purpose often grows right in the middle of imperfect seasons.
mm,
And that was one of the first chapters I wrote in one of those anthologies, was talking about seasonal purposes, because your seasons are not always defined by one purpose through your whole life. Your podcast is amazing. It doesn't mean it's 20 years worth of podcast. It could be this season. And in this season, God's going to take it and amplify it and multiply it. And in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, who knows? God
mhm.
wants you to then leverage it for something even greater.
That's true.
And we've got to be willing to surrender whatever it is that we're working on, right? Because
Mhm,
that purpose shifts and changes based on what God needs you to do in a different season. But I
mhm,
do know this. I know this very deeply. Your story is not disqualified because life is still hard. As a medical mom, life is hard all the time.
mhm,
And
mhm,
your life as a medical mom may be a long-term life as a medical mom where they don't leave the home, they don't leave the nest. And that life looks radically different than the traditional 18 college, trade school, get out, have a job, get married, have kids kind of thing. That life for many of us as medical moms, we're over here going, okay, I just need to outlive my kid. And that's a whole nother beast of a conversation. But God still moves in those places, and He's still living, breathing, discerning, and teaching us in all of those hard places how to live to the fullest capacity that we are able in those moments. And hope still grows there. Hope and healing can still happen in those moments. And healing does look different. It doesn't always mean physical healing. It can be the opportunity to leverage what we've walked through. There's another medical mom, her daughter passed away. I think she had just turned 10 or 11, and she had just passed away of cancer. And her goal, her little girl's goal, was she wanted I think it was 1 million followers. And so that was their goal, to try and get 1 million followers. Or some of the influencers picked that up, and one was always dancing for her to get people to go, do it. Well, she hit her million mark
mhm,
right at the end of her life,
mhm,
which
mhm,
was
mhm,
joyous.
mhm,
Now that family, God bless them, in the middle of their pain, in the middle of all that, has begun to leverage how many people are seeing them, putting eyes on them with truth, with hope they
mhm,
wouldn't have had. And to me, that's called living legacy. So even after, and this is for anybody, even after we are gone, I want people still talking about what God did in my life and how He moved, because that's going to speak as a living legacy to other people and bring hope to their lives.
mhm.
And it exists one breath, one step, and one act of courage at a time.
Wow. Wow, Crystal. Man, I could keep going. But so how can people connect with you?
Absolutely. So medicalmomwarriors.com is the quick and easy way. And in there, you're going to see all kinds of tools. You're going to see other events that I've been on, other speaking engagements, other resources that I provide, as well as an ADA accommodations guide available for them for free. And I'm actually just about to put out there a cheat sheet that I created because of my own kiddo. And it has been revolutionary when we walk into these appointments and hand this cheat sheet to the doctor, and they just look at us like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced bread, which is kind of funny because when you're celiac, we don't eat bread. So it's kind of funny. We just laugh. And so that cheat sheet will be available hopefully by the end of today. And, anything that I can do to help people gain their life, gain their healing, get anchored, rooted in Jesus while they're walking through it and learning the tools and support, that's the goal. And so I'd love to be able to do that. And the women who are feeling unwell, underappreciated, right? They're unseen, they're dismissed, they're invalidated for all the things that they're walking through. I see you. I see you as a mom, and I want to say thank you, because your kids might not be able to say it yet. I call that forth to them. They will be able to, and they will appreciate everything that you have laid down for them in the name of Jesus, right? The
Amen.
sacrifices that you have made. And I want those moms and you and medical mom warrior moms and chronically ill to understand you are being seen and you are being heard. And we can do this alongside of each other because you're not alone anymore. And it's not just about God is always with you, but it's about that tangible hands and feet to get
Mhm.
you to where you need to go.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much, Crystal. You've brought a lot of value in this episode, just with your story and just the resources. And all of your resources, once your episode drops, is going to be in the description notes of just how people can connect with you. And you said you had your book. We'll put all that information in the description for this episode. Thank you so much for being on the show. So, folks, that's another episode of Becoming the Proverbs 31 Woman podcast. If you like information like this, just with Crystal, Crystal has told like a tremendous story. Please like, share, subscribe. And now there's a feature I think called Hype, where you can hype up the episode so that way we can get more episodes like this. So just click that button. I see a lot of people have been watching, but we need more subscribers on here. So please subscribe so that way we could get more people to hear valuable content like this as well. So thank you. And that's another episode of Becoming the Proverbs 31 podcast. I'm your host, Choma Kende, also known as Special Agent Chi. Until next time, have a blessed day. Bye, everyone.